Hello and welcome to the Creative Soul Summit. I'm your host, Devin Walls, abstract painter, creative guide, and a true believer in the transformative power of making art. I've gathered 20 women from all different creative fields to talk about how their creative journey has changed their life, how they stay inspired, how they deal with self-doubt, and all things self-discovery, freedom, and healing through art. Today, I'm talking with Marissa Huber, and I so loved having this conversation with Marissa. I love how passionate she is about building community, which makes sense because she's a co-founder of the Carve Out Time for Art community, a community that I've personally loved being a part of. And we also talk about how to really make time for art, even when it feels like you basically have none. So for those of you who don't already know Marissa, she's a painter, pattern designer, writer, mother, creative instigator, and human being trying her best to be a good person with a healthy dose of mischief. She returned to art later in life after thinking she wasn't good enough to be an artist. Losing her brother in 2005 and becoming a mother in 2013 made her realize life was short. So she better enjoy the time she has here and spend more time doing what she loves and tackling her own big dreams. By day, she uses her interior design background and problem-solving skills in her role as an occupancy planner. Her passion projects are working on her own art, learning how to make better digital patterns, and thinking up creative antics for the Carve Out Time for Art community. She lives in South Florida with her artist husband, Mike East, and the world's most hysterical and talented Lego master builder, Henry Pickles. Without further ado, I present to you this conversation with Marissa Huber. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Creative Soul Summit. Today, I'm here with Marissa Huber. Is that how you say your last name? I realized I didn't ask you that beforehand. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm super excited to have her on. I love her work. She is the founder of the Carve Out Time for Art community, which I'm a huge fan of. And so I'm super excited to have her on. Thanks for making time for this, Marissa.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So just to start us off, would you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you became an artist?
Yes. So I think my journey sounds like a lot of people. I was always a creative kid, and I was really encouraged by my family. I would, draw and paint and write with my brother. But then as I got older into like that high school, I just thought I don't have ideas. And I thought you had to have everything come to you automatically, or else like you weren't a real artist. You were just like, trying. And I did sports. So I just kind of gravitated towards sports and always was creative. But then later on in life, I would always be doing watercolor. I worked in an art store. I studied interior design, and I loved doing the painting and the drawing for the conceptual stuff. And then I ended up marrying a fine artist. His painting is behind me.
Nice.
And I was like, oh crap, like these are real artists. But over time, I think found my own groove and realized, I'm an artist too. And if doing art and painting is what I want to do most with my time, especially after I had a child and I had no time, I felt like it really made me think, you know what, I'm an artist too. So that was awesome for me. And then that encouraged me to kind of promote that message to other people who I found were feeling the same as me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that about sums it up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that that's something you're really passionate about is encouraging moms to stay with their creative practice and making time for that. So what does your schedule look like? I know you also work another job. And so what does your creative schedule look like in terms of making that creative time for yourself?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would say if anything, I'm an expert on finding like 5 minutes of time and having it look like something. Mm-hmm. I mean, I try to be very candid about it, like saying, I don't really have much time. Here's me spending 15 minutes to paint my sketchbook while I'm doing bath time. But like Monday through Friday, I'm gone from my house from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. usually. So like I feel like I'm never home. And I don't do a lot of creative work during the week. Like maybe one day during the week, I might try to get in my sketchbook for 20 minutes, or like on a weekend is where I can usually carve out more time for art, maybe like an hour or two if I can wake up early, or if like my son's doing something else.
Yeah.
But it is hard. And a lot of like the creative, like if we do interviews or stuff on Instagram, that's where I can sneak in a little bit of time to maybe like I'm getting coffee at work, so I can edit a photo real quick and post it on Instagram, or send an email to somebody to do an artist takeover, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So it doesn't look like
Yeah.
a lot to me,
Yeah.
which is, is sad, but I think it's also empowering in a way. If I can make time and I feel like I'm never home, then other people can, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think too, I was talking with another mother artist who was saying, like, of course we all wish we had a whole bunch of time, but even that like 5 minutes or 20 minutes, it's like whatever you can do, it does make a difference and it is important.
Yeah.
And just because you can't do like the whole shebang event,
Yes.
doesn't mean that it's not like valuable creative time. So I think that that is important to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that like there will be times when I'm like on a weekend, if I'm like hanging out with my kid, which I love, and I want to spend time with him because that's really important. I'm not seeing
Mm-hmm.
him a lot during the week, and sometimes I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
But but then I'll also feel like, oh, I kind of wish I had more time. Not that I don't want to play with him, but you'll think, oh, I wish I could be doing something. So if there's an activity maybe we could do together, or if he wants to sit and watch, the iPad, a show for a little bit, I'll be like, okay, I can like sketch in my watercolor, pad next to him,
Yeah.
or I can work on my website or something, so I kind of just try to trick my brain, or I can have a phone call on my commute with people,
Mm.
and that's like a part of a creative practice, like the incubation part where I might not be physically painting or drawing or creating something, but I'm absorbing things and thinking through ideas for later. And I
Yeah.
think, that's something that anybody can do, whether
Yeah.
you're a mom or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And actually, the first person who's brought that up, but I had an experience where I was getting a psychic reading. And she told me that she's like, it was during a time where I really wasn't feeling well. And she's like, even
Oh,
if you're taking in inspiration, that's of the same thread as actually creating.
yes.
And
Yes.
so you need to do one or the other every day. And because that taking in is an option, like it should
Mm-hmm.
be totally doable. And that's really stuck with me. And so it's interesting to hear you say that because I hadn't heard that from somebody else yet.
No, I think because I mean, I call it creative crankiness. We came up with a hashtag. Like if I'm sitting there on a Saturday and feeling like I've done nothing,
Yeah.
and then of course I'll look at Instagram and like everyone's doing something, and
Mm.
oh my gosh, no, it's not just me.
Yeah.
But then I'll think, okay, well then go do something. Like go make some marks, go doodle, take 5 minutes, go for a walk, and just look at pretty
Yeah.
flowers. Like everything counts to me.
Yes.
It just doesn't always look like what you see on like the internet,
Right.
you know.
Which is just a highlight reel
So
anyway. So it's not
exactly.
like...
No,
um,
that's amazing.
yeah. So that kind of leads us into I would like to hear the story behind Carve Out Time for Art. I know that you are a co-founder with Heather Kirkland. But could
Hmm.
you tell us a little bit like how that came about, how you guys even met, and what's the story there?
Yeah. So, well,
Okay.
one, we've never met in person, but
Okay.
with what happened was after I had my son, I got I had like an illustration commission from this interior designer, and I couldn't pass it up. But I'm like, I'm gonna have my son in 2 weeks. It's my first child, and she was very accommodating. But I'm like, let's just go for it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I was able to finish the work, but I noticed I had to like, set 20 minutes aside to do one piece and then set 20 minutes aside. I had to think about my process differently.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started to paint and I felt like myself because it was overwhelming to have a child.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to take care of this child and keep it alive. Like, this is really scary. I mean,
Yeah.
am I really qualified? Oh my gosh. But it felt like me, and I say it's like this common thread from my life before I had Henry to after, where I'm still me. Because most people were telling me, oh, you won't have any time for yourself. Like that's what people tell women. You're never gonna have
Mm.
time for yourself. You can't do anything for yourself. Oh, like you're a bad mom if you want something more than just being a mother. And like
Mm.
they don't say that to men, in my opinion. I don't
No.
see it as
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Right.
So I felt like if I can do something and I feel good about myself, then there must be, I know there's other people out there. I've seen these people. So I said, I want to interview 10 moms and I'll do a series and just find out how being a mother helped them to be more productive. Because the one thing I found was I was like, I'm more efficient and I'm more confident in my work since I had my child, because I'm like, if I really want to do this with my free time, then it means something, and I'm an artist.
Mm.
So, anyway, long story short, I interviewed 10 moms, and then I just loved it so much and I got a great response that I kept saying, well, people were really excited about it. So I ended up interviewing Heather because I had found her, and she's like, oh, I'd love to interview you, or vice versa. And then she wrote, I like to ask people, like, do you have a big dream? And she said, I'd love to write a book on this one day. And that was a dream that I had never told anybody. So she's like, what about with you? So I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did she know? So we talked on the phone. In 10 seconds. We both like had just a connection. Like we were talking nonstop like this. And we're like, we need to collaborate together. So it ended up that we started writing a book together, which we're still working on. And then then she kind of came into the Carve Out Time for Art, and it became like something that we did together. We made it into an Instagram community, and it's very much like free flowing. We maybe talk, I think we've talked on the phone like 10 times. We do text messages. It's very much like we fly by the seat of our pants with it, and it just works for us.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting. We've never met in person. I can't wait until we do.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, and it's grown to more than just like, my message was not only mothers, like it is known for that, I think, and it's very important, but it's really anybody. Cause like I'm a day job, I have a day job. So it's for people like that. It's for someone who's a retiree. It's for anyone who wants to focus their time on what is important to them. It could be sewing or running or whatever, but we focus on art.
Yeah, that's actually something when I was really sinking into my experience with the community is it's very inclusive. That would be like the number one feeling I get from it, which has been so awesome. And so I can only imagine what the experience has been like kind of growing that baby on the other end.
No, that's exactly the message. Like, I don't care, what you believe, what your sexual orientation is, who you are, as long as you're a nice person, like, don't be a jerk. Yeah. You're part of our community,
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say has been like the most rewarding part of growing that community and like having it take on a life of its own?
I think just like, it feels like its own entity. It's been, what am I trying to say? It's been so rewarding to me personally. Like I've never felt part of like an online community with forums or things like that back in the past. I always felt it was kind of cliquey, but with Instagram, I found friends that are like real life friends, people that I've met online who I talk to on the phone. I feel like they are really good friends, and some I've met in person, and it's like, it's a real connection.
Yeah.
And when I moved, we were in Philadelphia for 12 years, and my husband and I moved back to be near my family 2 years ago. And so my job has been really intense and really hard. And there were times when I just felt like I was gone from my family all the time. I was super alone. But when I would jump online and see like comments from people or get a note from someone saying like, hey, you really helped me out of a spot, or you made me realize I was not alone. Like, that made me feel like a useful person who was doing like meaningful work somehow, like contributing to something that I believed in, even when I had no time to do anything, even when I was like, the only art I can do today is drawing 3 colors on my phone using the Paper by 53 app,
Yeah.
So I think that's just the people and the connections we've made, and seeing people who said like, I didn't think I could do anything, and now I just sold some paintings, or I started oil painting, or I took a class. Like, that means the most to us.
Yeah, that is really amazing. And I could see how that would be. It's like you've created your own kind of family, and that's really cool. Really, really awesome. So what would be your, like, if you could have an ideal vision for the community, like a couple years down the line, what would that be?
Oh man, I think we would love to one, we really want to publish a book, and whether it's with a publisher or whether we just self-publish it to put it out there. Like, our dream is to say, here's a resource, and like I don't know, like, I love to read. So to me, like, books are like friends. So I see this as like a book that's not too big, so you can like carry it around or give to a new mom or somebody, or just have as inspiration if you want to take it down and need some encouragement. So that's something that's really important to us. So if that ever happens, then maybe Heather and I could meet up and go visit a few places around the world. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And we would love to one day do like some type of big meetup.
Yeah, that would be
Just
cool.
to meet people, but not necessarily for like learning about business or things like that. Like just to talk about art and paint and, form friendships and just have fun and like talk to others.
Yeah.
Like a big retreat or something. That would be really fun.
That would be really awesome. And I like what you said too about, I mean, there's nothing wrong talking about business. I think it's really important as artists. However, that was something, coming in with my intention for this series. I've talked a little about business here and there with people, but that's something, some feedback I've gotten from people is like, it's really nice to be able to talk just about art and celebrate being an artist. And that's really kind of where I'm coming from at this point in time too. So I really resonate with that. And I would love to attend that when you guys
you gotta come.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's what, like, and another thing is I'm not really selling my art a lot. So in some ways I like to be very honest of, I'm making art, I'm learning along the way. I'm interested in like pattern design and doing that. So I have some work with like Minted and I designed some cell phone cases for KSAP, but I'm really thinking about like, what do I want to be making? How do I want to improve? How am I learning? Like that's what I'm interested in. And I think that there's a lot of people who do, if you're interested in, promoting your work and your business. And like, there's a lot of people who are doing that really well. So that's where we like to be the resource to say, hey, we're going to connect you to some people we think are doing a good job of that. But we're more interested right now in that conversation of the growth, because I think I'm subjective there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, the business stuff is good, but I almost think because there's a lot of focus on that, the conversations are getting out of balance. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, we just want to see like, what's the next level? And we love seeing people grow, and watching ourselves learning grow. So
yeah, absolutely. So
cool. We'll have a conference. Let's do it.
Yeah, I would love that. It's so funny, from doing this series in my mind, I've been thinking about like, that would be so cool to have these people come together in person in some way, shape, or form. So maybe when the time comes, we can all contribute something.
I just wish we lived in the same neighborhood,
I know.
But it is cool. It feels like wherever you go now around the world, like we have, actually, it's funny, probably because I go to sleep late at night and I would post things around like midnight in my time. I know a bunch of people in Australia and New Zealand now.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I want to go there and like stay with all these cool people,
Yeah, I know. Totally. There is I've noticed that as well. Like the connecting with Australia and New Zealand. I actually have a couple of people on this series from that area, and that's been so cool because it feels like a global thing, which is really awesome as well.
Yeah, and they have really strong artists. I feel like
they do.
The country seems to value the art more. I don't know.
I don't know either. I've never been, but I would like to go.
Me too. Yeah, we'll go together.
Yeah, maybe we can have the conference there.
Yeah.
So kind of coming back to the art practice note, what would be some advice that you would have for somebody who hasn't started making art yet, but they feel they're creative and they want to start, but they're a little bit intimidated? How would you advise them to like get started?
I would think, see what you're interested in. Like if you're, I can't talk. If you're drawn to like hand lettering, or do you see, watercolor is really a nice gateway tool, I think, that because it's water-based and it's easy and it's portable and you can like pick it up and put it down. I really think like just drawing in a sketchbook and doodling, and you don't have to show it to everybody, but like drawing from life, saying like, oh, here's some flowers, try to draw that, or try to draw things that you want to buy, but you can't afford.
Yeah.
Or, like I can always find things that I want to buy. And I'll sketch that on my sketchbook.
Yeah.
There's a book I read. I'm blanking out on his name. I can send you the link. Art for Breakfast.
Okay. Oh, is it Danny Gregory?
Yeah.
I totally have that book, maybe? Or something like that.
I loved it.
That's so funny. I started with that book actually. Or is one of the things I started with. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, anyone can improve their drawing skills, and just like writing notes to yourself and, something that happened during your day. I think that's a great way to get started.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I totally agree.
Other than that, like when so my husband's an oil painter and I was a little intimidated when I had wanted to learn oil painting, but I didn't know how. So I was like, what do I even do? And he suggested to me, he's like, well, why don't you look for colors and try to recreate them? Like start with that. So that is something I would recommend too. Like if you were interested in maybe painting abstractly, but you didn't know how to start or didn't know what ideas, think of things throughout your day and think, okay, I love this orange that I saw and try to recreate that. Or I like these marks on the highway. I'll do that and try to recreate that. So you're like telling a story visually, but you have the inspiration and you're not having to like, oh, let me just see what looks good.
Yeah, make
Like you
something out of
have,
nothing.
yeah, like it's like there's a clue that you can try to reinterpret.
Yeah,
To
totally.
me, like I need parameters to do things. Otherwise, like I can't make a decision.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. I think that's a common thing for artistic personalities. I get that. The container is really important. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good advice. Totally.
Well, that's cool.
So, coming to the end of the conversation, before I ask the final question, where can people find more of you? Do you have anything coming up you'd like to talk about? Anything like that?
I have actually I need to update my website. I've done that. I just need to like transfer it. So you can find me at marissahuber.com. I'm on Instagram frequently
Okay.
at Marissa Huber. And then you can find us at Carve Out Time for Art. So we have probably 100 interviews over the last couple of years with not just artist mothers, but people talking about how they started selling their work or approaching galleries or vulnerability, all types of things.
Cool.
Someone who discovered art as a retiree. So
Yeah.
that's at Carve Out Time for Art on Instagram or www.carveouttimeforart.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll link to all that below.
Yes.
So, for the final question, what do you love about being an artist?
I think I just love that, I'm never bored. I can always find like something. If I'm bored, I can find something to do. Like, oh, I'm gonna look at cool dump trucks on the road. I mean, this sounds silly, but when I'm driving every day for an hour in the morning, I'm sitting in traffic, I'll look for like, oh, these colors are really cool. Or look at those lines, or look at the shiny pink, car, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I like that you can, like, to me, having a hobby or something that you're interested in doing, it just makes life it connects you to other people and makes life a little richer, in my opinion.
Yes. I totally agree with that. That's a really good answer. Thank you
Yes.
so much,
Thank you
Marissa.
so much.
Yeah, I really
Yes.
enjoyed talking to you, and we will be connected on Instagram.
Yes, and we'll go to Australia together.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, everybody here.
Yeah,
I
thanks so
appreciate
much.
you having me.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.